Now it's time to get into Dark Side of the Ring. This week, in the shadow of Grizzly Smith, also known as the father of Jake the Snake Roberts, and actually a bunch of other wrestlers too. There's actually a family of Smiths here, but you don't really hear about the other ones too much.
Yeah, I honestly, before I saw this, I did not know that they were all related. And
I had no idea Rockin' Robin was related to Jake Roberts.
That's crazy. That blew my mind. I was like, wow.
Yeah. Cornette said there was no public knowledge that they were related, even when they were all working in the company at the same time.
I also thought Jake Roberts' name was Jake Roberts.
So before we get into this really quick, this episode that we're about to talk about, there's nothing to joke about. There really, truly is nothing to joke about here. This was just a really dark episode about a real fucked up dude that fucked up a lot of people's lives. There's also a trigger warning here for a lot of different reasons, so just be prepared for that. If this is not something you want to listen to, then you can skip ahead. So we started off, we have Sam Houston and Rockin' Robin. They tell us that is Jake Roberts' real-life brother and sister, which I didn't know. I've heard of Rockin' Robin, not Sam Houston.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know Sam Houston either. I didn't know the relation to any here. I feel like I knew the Grizzly Smith thing, but it may have honestly only been because of this episode because I was like, oh, that's Jake Roberts' family? Okay, huh, okay.
And they say that Cornette says Sam Houston was the best of the bunch, so I don't know what that means. Worker-wise. Because he never made it, or I guess he did, but he was never like as big as Jake.
Was he in WWF?
Yes, he was in WWF with them.
They were all in the WWF at once at like the
That's
same
right,
time.
It did say that, yeah. Oh, yeah, they were all working at the same time. Wow, yeah.
So Grizzly Smith did not want Jake in the business, and he even went as far as to getting promoters to fire him when he was trying to get into the business and break in from different places he went.
It's fucked.
Jake said that he got into wrestling to spite Grizzly. He wanted to be successful just to rub it in his face, just to make him say like, hey, you did something good for once.
Yeah. He practically said, I wanted to make him say, I'm proud of you. And Jake said he never said it to him. He said it to other people. He heard it from other people that Grizzly said that about him, but he never directly said it to him.
So Grizzly worked in the oil fields. He met someone that wrestled, and they said, wow, you're 7 foot tall. Why don't you wrestle? He said, okay. Grizzly also would stand in alleyways and take money, 25 cents, 50 cents, whatever the case may be.
What the fuck
to have
was
people
this? Yeah.
punch him in the stomach as hard as they could to see if he would fall.
Yeah.
They said that he made more money doing that than he would throughout the week.
And that's when he decided he wanted to be a wrestler.
Yep. That's when he was like, okay, wrestling.
Cool.
Maybe I can do
Weird.
that.
That's a strange origin story.
So Grizzly Smith, 7 foot tall, 350 pounds, long red head, big beard, just a fucking wrestler if you were to ever find one in the street. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They said pretty much it looked like he just walked out of the woods.
Grizzly apparently had worked so much and bled so much that his head was so gigged up that they couldn't even do anything about it anymore.
The scar tissue was just too crazy on his fucking head to even like stitch him.
They also said that Grizzly kayfabed his kids, and they thought that wrestling was real and that people were trying to kill their dad, and he never smartened him up until way later. And I don't even think he smartened him up. I think they just got smartened up.
Yeah, I think they just figured it out, yeah.
He said he would even play out the angles at home, and then like the kids were like 6 or 7 years
like
old,
talk
and
about
they didn't even understand
the stuff that was coming up, and like Jake like thought that these bad guy wrestlers were going city to city to fucking try to kill his dad.
The territories.
Yeah,
That's so fucked up to a kid's like psychology or like psyche and stuff.
Psyche, yeah.
Yeah, just kids are so messed up at 6 and 7, so impressionable.
So Cornette says that he heard jokes about Grizzly mentoring young girls and having them on his lap and reading them Bible verses, but he didn't really understand the jokes until, of course, years later and after his passing, and all of the information came out that we'll get into in here in just a minute. So Baby Doll, which is another wrestler, ended up marrying Sam Houston, which is, of course, Jake's brother. Baby Doll said that Grizzly would pick up 14 or 15-year-old girls randomly and would have them on the road for days, and that he would pick them up from their houses, and their parents would like wave them off and stuff.
Yeah, their parents were cool with it.
I didn't understand that part.
It was. I'm guessing it was part of like the superstardom he had because he was pretty popular.
But did they think he was training her? Training them? Sorry,
I don't know,
like,
man. There's
like what the fuck would have?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's different times, like now everything's so protected and stuff. Back then it was more like, oh, okay, yeah.
Oh,
sure,
Grizzly Smith's picking up. Yeah, that's cool. What the fuck?
I guess I don't know. It's real fucked up.
So Jake said that he had separated himself from Aurelian Smith Jr. a long time ago. He said he hadn't been Aurelian for like 30 or 40 years. That basically Aurelian died a long time ago. And he's just been Jake Roberts as long as he can remember now.
Yeah, he said he hasn't grown up since he was 13 or something. That's so crazy.
Also, Jake's mom was 13 years old when Jake Roberts was born.
Yeah, what the fuck?
So Grizzly was a full-blown pedophile.
Yeah, Jake, which is crazy because I've heard a lot about the Grizzly Smith stuff, and even Jake's talked about it, but I don't think anybody's ever come out and said he was a pedophile, and that's like
and they just said it straight up.
Yeah, it's like a huge step for somebody has somebody like that do that, abuse them and stuff like that, to come out and say that. So Jake is really like,
and maybe that's why. Maybe it just took so long for them to fully like accept that that's what happened.
Yeah, they said after his passing, that's when they started like kind of figuring it all out and being able to move forward with it. Jake implied that his sisters got the worst of it from Grizzly. Grizzly ended up remarrying, and Jake moved in with them, and he thought that things were going to go better. You know, his life was going to get better finally.
He said he was happy about it too.
Yeah, he was going to move on. Grizzly's new wife ended up also being a rapist and was raping Jake. And then when he told Grizzly about this, his new wife would beat Jake for it.
This was weird because a little after this, I think it was Rockin' Robin who talks about, because it's her mom, which it's Jake's stepmom. Is that how that was? It's not his. That's not his actual mom, right?
New mom,
It's Rockin' Robin's mom. And they asked her, they're like, oh, have you heard about any inappropriate things that she's done with Jake? And she's kind of denied it, but I don't know if she denied it in a way that made it sound like anything that she did was because of Grizzly, like that he made her do it.
Right.
So.
Sort of implying that, yeah.
Right, which is, it's I don't
Obviously,
know.
we only know what we're told.
Exactly, right. It's just fucking fucked beyond belief regardless, but it's just, and obviously you can see, I mean, jumping ahead just a little bit, like by the end of the episode, they're all, like this is not the perspective of 4 people that are actively in each other's lives or talking to one another. Like,
no.
These 4 are all related and still have no type of relationship with one another, and I don't even know, they don't say, but I don't know if when the last time they have talked. So obviously it's 4 similar yet slightly different versions of stories of 4 people that had to deal with a fucked up upbringing from the same family.
So Robin talks about it too. Grizzly gaslighted Robin and then molested her from 8 to 14. She didn't come out outright and say that he raped her, but she implied it.
Right.
No, said that he would ignore her and then would be like, "Oh, come and hang out with me now.
Yeah.
Oh, now I love you." Yeah, it's so weird.
She said at 15, she told him that if he ever did any of that shit again, she was going to shoot him.
Yeah.
This was after she moved out. Then Jolene, which is apparently Grizzly's other daughter. There is so many strings connecting people.
It's like they're
here.
Jake Roberts' half sister somehow. I don't know how that.
This dude was doing fucked up shit all over to all sorts of different people.
So Jolene came to meet with Robin. She asked Robin if she felt safe, and Robin was like obviously implying that she felt that Jolene had the same thing happen to her that Grizzly did to her.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, Jolene was kidnapped.
This story is crazy. Like, I mean, obviously it's all crazy, but this is like, I don't even understand it really.
Because everyone has their own ideas about this story. And like you said, it's like people that haven't talked. So they all have their own separate ideas of what happened here. So they talk about it. They say that Robin and Richard were at a roller rink and then came home to a note from Grizzly that said Robin was kidnapped. Richard and Robin were kind of different on this story. Robin was confused. How did Grizzly know that she was kidnapped? Richard was more so concerned about Jolene just because he was closer to Jolene than anybody else was. Someone had broke into Jolene's trailer, grabbed her and her baby and threw them in a car. We get introduced to Buzz, the cop, who is the coolest looking dude I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
He's got this sweet little mustache and stuff. And he talks about his career. And he's like, look at me when I was 28 years old. And I was like, that's cool.
Look at this fucker.
Richard then implies that there's no way that someone grabbed Jolene and her baby and they just left. He says
she was
there
like
had to be more than one person.
Yeah.
Then it talks about Phelan Rogers, which was Jolene's husband's ex-wife. Like I said, there's so many red pieces.
There's
too many
lot.
pieces.
Phelan Rogers, Jolene's husband's ex-wife, used to send death threats, and then she would eventually confess to kidnapping. But she said that Jolene had escaped pretty early on. I mean, this is where the story completely falls off here. So
yeah, it's the outcome is really, you don't really know. There's no final answer for it, sadly.
Buzz says that the cops had a big search party going. They had dudes on horses. They had a whole bunch of stuff going on here. He even brought in a psychic, and the psychic said that she's in somewhere dark. You got to check wells.
Yeah.
They'd never found the body, so they never found Jolene. They don't even know, she could be alive, she could be dead. No one really knows. They never found her, so a murder charge wasn't possible. But Phelan Rogers did get charged with kidnapping, And she got, from what Buzz said, 30 years, but she only served 7.
I was watching this. And just to be full transparency, I messaged the boys midway through watching this, and I said, I don't know how the fuck to even talk about this, because it's so, like, we've watched so many of these Dark Side episodes, and not that I'm, like, used to them, because I don't think it's the right word, and I don't think I'm desensitized either, but this is next level, like, horrible shit. Like,
Yeah.
This is like, I don't know, there's something about this one that really, like, just real fucked the whole way through.
So Jake said it's the first time that Grizzly had ever missed a wrestling match was when Jolene was kidnapped and they had to go to court. Grizzly was going to kill Phelan Rogers, I believe, with a piano string.
Yeah, and like a piece of wood. I don't know how it works.
They made it sound like he carried that around with him at all times.
I think that's what they said. They said he always had that. I don't know what.
Which is a very weird thing to have in your pocket.
Yeah, they said there was a bunch of like cops around her because they knew like a big dude like that could do what the fuck he wanted when he was angry.
So Buzz says Phelan worked at a place with an incinerator, so he thinks that they threw her body into the incinerator, which I guess goes back to what Richard says. I can't imagine her being able to, throw around a body like that. You know what I mean?
It couldn't have been just one person. Yeah.
So Richard implied there was more than one person. Robin, on the other hand, thinks that the other person was Grizzly, that he had something to do with it because he had no remorse for this situation whatsoever.
He never cried over it. He didn't seem like, obviously he didn't go to a wrestling match, which was, something out of the ordinary for him. But
yeah,
that could have also just been to, cover something up to make it look like he did care. But no emotion on the guy.
You never know with this guy. He gaslights everybody and he's all over the place. So you really don't know what he is.
They also
very
wanted to go
sociopathic tendencies here.
Want to go on Unsolved Mysteries and get this, but the dad was like, "No, we can't do that. We're not going to go on Unsolved Mysteries."
That show used to be huge,
dude. Oh my god,
huge.
Yeah.
I remember everyone used to watch that.
Hell
That was just, they tune in to see that. So that was like way different. When TV was more centralized, that was huge. Jake said that he used the hate from his childhood to make Jake the Snake Roberts. He said that, if there was anything you want to thank his dad for, it's the hate that he was able to use to make the character that he did.
I don't mean to cut you off. Sorry. Just, I wanted to go back to the Jolene thing real quick. I still can't, like, that story is like, there's no, like, she was charged obviously, but like no one has any clue what actually happened. Like, I feel like that might, like, that's like, if Netflix got their fucking hands on that, like, that's like, I wish the right people could get their hands on that case and do like a big story about that so that they could have like
it was a small town investigation.
It's like a lot of those things happened back then because like stuff like that never happened.
Yeah, how would you know?
So they don't know what to do when that stuff does happen. So the cops aren't prepared for it, and then they're like, we should get a psychic to do this. Like, that's
It's crazy.
Robin implied that Grizzly did it because she had a lot of dirt and she was going to go out with it. Is what she was implying here. So that's why her story is a little different from Richard's story.
Right. But yeah, Jake saying that his whole character was based on how much hate he has for his dad is just kind of like, it kind of gives you a different perspective of his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he said he used the snake so people wouldn't look at him. Look at the snake.
Yeah.
Robin ended up getting trained in North Carolina, which I thought was a cool tidbit.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And then got a tryout against Sherry in WWF in a dark match. And Vince said, wow, you throw a punch like one of the guys. That's pretty cool. And
he signed her. Yeah, he signed her because of that.
That's awesome. Then it goes to Sam Houston. Sam Houston started making some money in wrestling and started drinking. They said dude could do 32 Crown and Cokes in one night.
Wow.
That's fucking insane.
That sounds like a lot. I don't know shit about alcohol, but
I do Jack and Cokes, man, and a few of them, I'm feeling it. 32,
you have a couple,
I'd be dead.
32, you should be passed out dead on the floor.
Yeah, you'd be fucking dead.
Crazy.
I don't know. Yeah, that's insane.
That's like a whole
I don't know
bottle
if they
of
kayfabe
Crown,
that number,
pretty
but
much.
that's crazy. Then they go on a little bit more. Grizzly comes to meet with Robin, and when he shows up to meet with Robin, he has a little girl with him, like 9 years old.
Yeah.
And then they come into the room with Robin, and then Grizzly, the first thing that he asks her is, can she make this little girl a daiquiri?
Yeah. Do they say who, like, did Robin actually know, like, what, was she just another girl that Grizzly picked up from a family? The rest?
Another chick,
Wow.
Just like the rest of them.
And then when Grizzly went to leave in the morning, Robin told the girl to stay with her and then told Grizzly to
you
piss
fuck off. Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't go into any more about what happened to that girl or anything, but you only hope that she turned out all right.
I'm assuming she ended up, like, they would take her back to her family, Robin would.
I hope so.
Everything was good.
Then they went on to talk a little bit more about Sam Houston, who had a pretty tragic fall here. Sam Houston had the all-time Texas state record for most DUI offenses, which is unbelievable
insane.
Because he didn't get arrested for any of these.
Well, I was going to say, and Cornette has a good point here where he says, if you get caught 20 times, that doesn't mean you only did it 20 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So he was pretty much doing it every night.
They were saying that he would always get charged with like first offenses, so like that would just be community service. So he would never get like anything worse than community service.
How many different DUI offenses are there that you can get a first 30 times?
I don't. A small town, dude. I don't
know.
Grizzly
Smith in a small town. Like, they're like, oh yeah, he's a Grizzly's kid.
I feel like they said specifically the one where he actually went to jail. Grizzly wasn't around or able to bail him out that time.
They also said like they implied that Grizzly might have had dirt on some of the cops or something, so that's why the kid always
small
got away
town,
with
bro.
it.
I believe.
Yeah, they're probably doing the same shit he was doing.
They go on to talk about he gets 30 years in prison. He tried to hang himself in prison, but the rope broke, I believe.
The knot. Yeah, he said the knot. Before he did it, he said, "God, you're the only one that can stop this." And he tried to do it, and he said the knot broke as he did it. So
said he hit the floor so hard he bruised his feet.
That's
wow.
Disgusting.
Jake Roberts then talked about his cocaine addiction. He said, I was a cocaine addict for 20 years.
Fucking
You don't hear that very often because most cocaine addicts don't make it 20 years.
Yeah,
So then they talked about Jake Roberts, what he would do on cocaine. Talked about how most of the time he wouldn't even remember half the shit he did, and if he did, it was shit that he isn't proud of. Like,
it was crazy shit.
Just having sex with random women and just ridiculous stuff. Then it goes back to talk about Robin. Robin had won the WWF Women's Championship on her run.
She still has the title too, right? I think they show her holding it in the show.
Yeah, she has the title, which is pretty cool. Then after the WWF ended its women's division, she started having a little drinking problem too. Apparently, they just said that abuse just runs in the family.
In that family, yeah.
Then it goes on to talk about Grizzly. He died in 2010 due to complication from Alzheimer's disease, and he never apologized for anything or thought that he did anything wrong. And he never told anybody anything.
Doesn't surprise me.
So Jake ends up at the end of this. It's Jake telling the story here. Richard was really torn up about the death because I think he's the one that found Grizzly dead.
Yeah, he was like the sole caretaker, wasn't he? Of the
he was taking care of him.
Richard was the one that was pretty much said he kind of like avoided all the other shit.
Yeah, he said he lucked out on this one because he got adopted to a new family after, like when he was younger.
Yeah, Richard said like why he was like, why didn't you become a wrestler? He said why?
Yeah.
Well, why didn't I? Go, well, why do you think he become a wrestler? So Jake ends up at the end. He says he tells people that may be going through these sort of things, to get help as soon as you can. If you're having anything that even looks anything similar to this,
That was so like heart-wrenching. Just that ending speech from
ending
Jake,
really
like,
did.
Pleading with people to like get fucking help.
He's like, run away, run to the cops, run to your pastor, run to anybody
the run,
that'll help
like
you.
when he said run, that like shot right through me. I don't know why. Real fucking just like.
And especially when Jake...
Rock and Robin also had a little talk. It's like just before the Jake part, Rock and Robin kind of gives a similar thing saying, if you deal with anything like this, there's, you can get help. If you tell somebody, you can get help, which...
Yeah, she was saying, don't think that this is like the end of you. Like you can still become successful and be somebody.
You can step out of
this
that.
happens to you, which I thought was really good.
And then it shows Jake standing in front of the AEW Dynamite stage smiling, which honestly kind of made me emotional.
That was so cool.
That whole Jake ending part like got me real good too. Like I was like, oh man,
he's one of my favorite parts of the show. So I'm really glad that he's still around.
And he says, "I'm 10 years sober," and he like even couldn't believe it himself when he said it. He's like, wow, it's actually been 10 years. Like,
I mean, I can't imagine there's many 20-year drug addicts that even get a chance to have 10 years sobriety.
I remember like there was always incidents. They talk about a little bit about the Heroes of Wrestling thing, but there was always like incidents with Jake. And I'm like, man, this is the last time we're going to hear about Jake. And then he just kept living.
I was surprised they didn't talk about any of the Beyond the Mat stuff because they kind of go into Jake's like problems big on that movie too.
They show a clip on it a little bit, but
do they? Okay,
really, they have a clip of like him and Grizzly when he's like when they're like doing something. I don't remember what they're doing, but
good for him, man. Fuck.
Yeah. This was the literal definition of Dark Side of the Ring. Jake rules, and he is a fantastic part of AEW, and he has been for years now.
How lucky! I mean, dude, we're lucky that dude is still around. Fuck.
Yeah,
dude,
genuinely one of probably the great. Yeah, I don't even want to say probably. Genuinely one of the greatest wrestlers ever.
Oh, easily. Easily.
Yeah, one of the greatest minds too, and he's helped so many people. And God, I can't even imagine how many people that he inspired. Just living his story out.
That's all you can ever hope for in a person that fucked up and did so much shit to like ruin their life. You can only ever hope that they'll change and acknowledge that they fucked up and get better. And that's what Jake is seemingly has done and is still doing.
Yeah,
it's an everyday battle.
Even in this, he said, "I'm a junkie, I'm a liar, I'm a thief." He like yelled it at the camera, like he admitted it. He's like, ugh.
That was Dark Side of the Ring in the shadow of Grizzly Smith. Does anyone know what's happening on the next episode?
Oh shit!
Dynamite Kid.
Is it? Oh god,
that's another tragic one.
What the this is gonna be fuck.
I think this is the last one for the mid-season break, and then they're gonna do it after the summer and continue.
Oh, I didn't realize there was a mid-season break. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, we'll talk about
cover that one too. So
yeah.